The dust storm had passed, but the smell of burned metal and dying fires still hung heavy in the air. Captain Lisa Harper stood at the edge of the ruined settlement, looking out across the broken buildings and collapsed structures. The colony on 442B had been attacked just hours ago, and now it lay in complete silence. Nothing moved. Nothing made sound. Just empty ruins and the ghost of what had once been a home for thousands of alien beings. Lisa's military unit had been sent on a simple patrol mission. They were supposed to map the area, check for resources, and report back to the main human base. Nobody expected to find a settlement here. Nobody expected to find anything at all. The planet was supposed to be empty except for some small alien outposts scattered across the southern continent. "Captain, we need to move," said Lieutenant Frank Davis from behind her. He was a good soldier, careful and practical. "Command says we should not stay in unknown territory for more than 30 minutes. We have already been here for 20. Lisa did not move. She kept staring at the settlement. Something felt wrong. The destruction was too complete, too planned. This was not random bombing or accident damage. This was a military strike, the kind that only happened when one power wanted to crush another. But the Empire was supposed to be united. They did not fight among themselves. At least, that was what the human intelligence reports had said. "Give me 5 more minutes," Lisa said. "I want to check those buildings over there." "Captain, that is not a good idea," Frank said. His hand moved to his weapon, not in threat, but in nervous habit. "We do not know if there are survivors with weapons. We do not know if the attackers are still close." But Lisa was already walking toward the nearest intact structure. The building was made of the strange blue metal that all technology used. Half of its front was blown away, leaving the inside exposed like the body of a dead animal. Lisa could see movement inside. Something small, something that was not standing upright like a soldier usually did. She raised her rifle but kept her finger off the trigger. "Hello," she called out in the basic language. "We are humans. We do not want to fight." The movement stopped. Lisa waited. Behind her, she could hear Frank talking into the radio, calling for backup from the squad. She heard him say they found something, but they did not know what yet. Then a small shape moved out from the shadows of the building. It was a young. Lisa had never seen one before. She knew that it young, but she had never seen one in person. This one was no more than 3 feet tall, with thin arms and legs that looked like they could break easily. Its skin was pale, not the dark purple of adult. Its large eyes were wide with fear. One of its arms hung at a strange angle, clearly broken or injured. "Stay back," the young alien said in a voice that sounded like wind through broken glass. "I will fight. I will hurt you." Lisa slowly lowered her rifle. She kept it ready but not aimed at the child. "I will not hurt you," she said. "My name is Lisa. What is your name?" The young did not answer. Instead, it looked around the ruins as if searching for something or someone. Then it started to cry, not with sound but with motion. Its whole small body shook with what Lisa recognized as deep sadness or pain. "Where are your parents?" Lisa asked. "They are dead," the young one said. "They told me to hide. They told me to go into the shelter and hide. I heard the sounds of the weapons. I heard the loud noises. Then it was quiet. When I came out, they were not moving anymore." Frank appeared beside Lisa, his weapon ready. "Captain, there are more of them. I count at least 4 inside the building. Some are injured." Lisa nodded slowly. She understood now. The attackers had not killed all the young ones. Maybe they wanted them dead but did not have time to search the ruins. Maybe they did not care. The young were fragile, not like the strong adult soldiers. They could not fight. They could not be a real threat. So whoever attacked this place had just left them to die slowly in the ruins. "We need to help them," Lisa said. "Captain, no," Frank said, and his voice was sharp now, firm. "These are our enemy. We cannot bring them back to base. Command will never allow it. We need to leave them and report what we found." "We cannot leave them," Lisa said. She was already moving toward the young alien who stood shaking in front of her. "These are children. They are not soldiers. They are not a threat." She reached down slowly, moving her hand toward the injured arm of the young. The child pulled back at first, but then stayed still. Lisa gently examined the broken arm. It was badly injured, but not bleeding heavily. She had basic medical training, like all military officers. She reached into her pack and pulled out a medical kit. "This will hurt a little," she said, "but it will help." She worked quickly, wrapping the arm with a splint and bandages. The young did not cry out, but Lisa could see the pain in its eyes. When she finished, she gave the child some water from her bottle. The young alien drank it all without stopping. "How many more are inside?" Lisa asked Frank. 4, maybe 5, he said. Some are hurt bad, one of them might be dying. Get the medical supplies, Lisa said. All of them, we are treating these young ones right now. Captain, if you do this, they will remove you from command, Frank said. His face was troubled. This is an order you cannot follow. This goes against everything our military teaches us. Lisa looked at the young, then back at Frank. I know, she said, but I will not leave them here to die. I will not murder children because of what their species is or what their government did. Find me the supplies. Frank was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned and ran back toward the rest of the squad, calling out for the medical kits. Lisa went into the damaged building, and what she found inside made her heart heavy. 4 young huddled together in a corner, covered in dust and blood. One of them was not moving at all. Another had a deep cut along its side. All of them looked at Lisa with eyes full of fear and sadness. The news spread across the empire like fire across dry land. A human captain had saved 5 young from certain death. She had given them medical care, clean water, and shelter. She had treated them not as enemies to be destroyed, but as lives worth saving. The High Council of the Empire gathered in emergency session to discuss this strange and troubling event. High Commander Vex sat in the Great Hall, listening to the reports come in from across the galaxy. The human settlement that held the young ones was called Station, and it was not a military base. It was a civilian colony with families and children of its own. Captain Lisa Harper had refused all orders to eliminate the young or return them to control. Instead, she had protected them. She had kept them safe. The more Vex heard, the more something twisted inside him. This is impossible, said Council Member, his voice hard and without emotion. The captain has violated military law. She has harbored enemy combatants. She must be executed and the young ones must be eliminated. This is not a choice. This is survival. They are not combatants, Vex heard himself say. The words came out before he could stop them. They are children. They cannot fight. They cannot threaten anything. The council turned to look at him. Eyes burned with anger. You speak against military law, High Commander? This is dangerous talk. Those young ones are the children of the rebel leader Thane. Their bloodline makes them threats. They will grow up with hate in their hearts. They will want revenge. This is what we know from experience. Vex knew that was right. This was how the Empire worked. Bloodlines determined everything. If your parent was a criminal, then you were a criminal. If your family opposed the government, then your entire family was an enemy. This system had worked for 10,000 years. It kept order. It kept control. It kept power in the hands of those who already held it. But something about this case felt different. The human captain had not known about bloodlines. She had not known about politics or law or any of the rules. She had simply seen young ones who were hurt and alone. She had helped them. And now the entire empire was troubled because a human had shown something that no soldier would show: mercy without reason, kindness without gain. I want to send a message to the human captain, Vex said. I want to understand why she did this. No, said immediately. You will send a demand. You will tell her that she must return the young ones, or we will attack her settlement and kill everyone there. Military strength is the only language humans understand. Vex did not argue further. He knew that had the support of the old council members, those who had held power for decades. But he also knew that younger council members were watching. They were listening. They were wondering about the same things that were troubling him. That night, Vex sent his own message to Lisa Harper through secure channels that only a high commander could use. He asked her why she had saved the young ones. He asked her what she believed would happen now. He asked her if she understood the danger she had created. The response came back quickly. Vex read it alone in his chambers, and by the time he finished, he had made a decision that would change everything. Lisa Harper wrote, I saved them because they were alive and hurt. I saved them because no young one should die alone in ruins waiting for a parent who will never come. I saved them because when I look at them, I see life. I see future. I see the possibility that your species and my species do not have to be enemies forever. I understand that this choice costs me. My government will not support me. My military career is ending, but I would make the same choice again. In my culture, we have a saying that a strong person can kill, but only the strongest can choose to save. Vex read those words over and over. A strong person can kill, but only the strongest can choose to save. He thought about his own life. He thought about the orders he had followed without question. He thought about the young ones he had seen eliminated because of their families. He thought about all the times he had done nothing because speaking out meant losing his position, his rank, his power. He made a decision. High Commander Vex called for his personal fleet. He moved without informing the council. He took ships and soldiers that were loyal to him, not to the government. He flew toward station, and as he approached, he sent a message to Lisa Harper. "I am coming. Do not be afraid. I am coming to show you that not all are monsters." When Vex's fleet arrived at station, the humans prepared their weapons. Lisa stood on the bridge of her small defense platform, expecting an attack. But Vex's ships did not fire. They did not move aggressively. Instead, Vex requested a meeting with Lisa Harper in a neutral location. They met in a small transport between the fleet and the human station. Lisa came with guards. Vex came alone, which shocked everyone. A high commander of the Empire meeting a human captain who had orders, sitting face to face with no weapons, no protection. "I want to understand," Vex said, his voice soft in the human way of speaking. "I want to know how you can choose kindness when it costs you everything." The young named sat in the medical chamber at station and watched Lisa Harper work. The captain moved with purpose, checking instruments, reading information from machines, and taking notes on a small data pad. His broken arm was healing well now. The pain was almost gone, but did not want to leave this room because leaving meant going back into the uncertainty of a world that had already abandoned him once. "How are you feeling?" Lisa asked, turning to look at the young alien. She asked this question many times each day. "Better," said. His voice was still weak but stronger than before. "I do not understand why you care about me." Lisa sat down beside him. "Because you are alive, because you deserve to live, is that not reason enough?" "In my world, no," said. "In my world, my father was a leader who disagreed with the High Council. Because of what he believed, I was marked for death. My mother told me this when I was very young. She said that power and bloodline matter more than anything else. She said that I would never be safe as long as the Council stayed in control." Lisa listened carefully. She had been learning about society, and everything she learned troubled her more. The Empire was not a unity. It was a system of control where those at the top stayed at the top by crushing anyone who challenged them. "Your mother was wise," Lisa said. "But she was wrong about one thing. She was wrong about safety. I have given you safety. High Commander Vex has given you protection. There are humans here who will defend you. Bloodline does not matter to us. Character matters. Actions matter. Who you choose to be matters." Wanted to believe this, but years of fear made believing difficult. High Commander Vex came to meet with the young ones during his third day at the station. He requested a formal meeting with all 5 survivors in the common area, and the others were nervous. A High Commander of the Empire was a being of great power. His presence meant life or death. His word could destroy civilizations. Vex entered the room, and the young ones drew back in fear. They had been raised with stories of high commanders as beings of absolute authority. But this high commander did something unexpected. He knelt down to the level of the young ones so that he could look into their eyes. "I was sent to eliminate you," Vex said, his voice clear and honest. "The High Council sent me to this station to take you back to the Empire so that they could execute you. I was prepared to do this. I would have done this without question because it was my duty, my order, my place in the world." The young ones looked at each other with fear growing in their eyes. "But I am not going to do this," Vex continued. "I have watched Captain Harper care for you. I have watched her heal your wounds. I have watched her give you food when her own rations were low. I have watched her teach you, protect you, and love you in a way that has no logic in my culture. And I realized that I have been wrong. My entire life I have been wrong." He stood up and looked directly at. "Your father was a good man. He wanted change for our people. The council killed him because he threatened their power. But you are here. You are alive. And that means his hope is not dead. His dream is not dead. You carry his spirit forward not through revenge, but through living and being better than those who tried to destroy you." One of the other young ones asked, "Will the council send more ships? Will they come to kill us all?" "They will try," Vex said. "I have already warned Captain Harper that an attack is coming. The council sees both of us as traitors now. I have turned my fleet against them. I have given them information about human weapons and defenses. I have changed sides in a war that I have fought in my entire life." "Why?" asked the smallest young one. "We are nothing. We are young and weak. We are not worth changing the entire course of your life." Vex looked at this small alien with kindness that seemed to pain him. "Because I finally understood something that humans have known forever. Life is the most valuable thing in the universe. Not power, not rank, not position. Life itself is sacred. And a being willing to die for life that is not their own, that is strength beyond anything I have ever witnessed. He turned to Lisa. I want to make a formal agreement. I want to offer the protection of my fleet to all 5 of these young ones. I want to present them to the galactic community as survivors of their government's cruelty. I want to show the people that their leaders abandoned their own young. This truth will change things. This truth might bring down the council. Lisa nodded. We need to move carefully. If we rush this, the council will move faster. We need to prepare. Over the next weeks, Vex worked with Lisa to create a plan. They gathered evidence of the council's actions. They recorded testimonies from the young ones. They documented every injury, every crime, every moment of abandonment. They built a case so strong that it could not be ignored. At the same time, the young began to heal, learned human language and human ways. He learned that humans had families too. He learned that human soldiers cried sometimes, that human leaders made mistakes, that human strength came from connection, not control. He began to see his own people differently, through the eyes of someone who understood that there were good and bad, just as there were good humans and bad humans. One evening, asked Lisa a question that had been growing in his mind for weeks. If the council attacks, will you fight to protect us? Will you kill other to keep us safe? Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, yes, I will defend you with my life, but I will not kill unless I must. I will try to save every life I can and human. That is what I believe strength means. Realized then that this human captain was more powerful than any commander he had ever known. She could have destroyed his people with weapons. Instead, she had chosen to save them with kindness. She had chosen to show them a different way to live. The message came 3 days later. The High Council had declared both Vex and Lisa Harper enemies of the state. They gave an ultimatum: return the young ones or face invasion. They said they would send a massive fleet to station and destroy everything there. Vex looked at Lisa across the command center. They are coming, he said. The final battle begins, but this time we will not fight for power or territory. We will fight for the right to protect life. We will fight for a future where bloodline does not matter, where young ones are not abandoned, where mercy is honored above all things. The battle fleet arrived at station on a cold morning when the sun was still low in the sky. 300 ships dropped into orbit around the planet, weapons armed and ready for attack. The High Council had sent overwhelming force. They had sent enough power to destroy not just the station, but the entire human colony with it. They had sent a message: anyone who protects the young ones of Thane will be erased from existence. Captain Lisa Harper stood in the command center and watched the ships arrive. She had known this moment was coming. She had prepared for it as much as anyone could prepare for something this terrible. Beside her, High Commander Vex checked his weapons and his defenses. His face was calm, but Lisa could see the weight of what he was about to do. He was about to fight against his own government, his own people, everything he had served for decades. They are not attacking yet, said Lieutenant Frank Davis. They are sending a message on all frequencies. A voice filled the command center, the voice of the High Council. You have our law. You have harbored enemies of the state. You have 1 hour to surrender the young ones and disarm your weapons. If you do not comply, we will destroy this station and everyone on it. Lisa looked at Vex. What do you want to do? She asked. I want to show them that they are wrong, Vex said. He opened a channel to his fleet. All ships, this is High Commander Vex. You were trained to follow orders without question. Today I am ordering you to question. The High Council has ordered me to kill young ones. They have ordered me to destroy this station. I am refusing these orders. Any commander who wishes to follow the council can leave now. Any commander who understands that we are wrong, that we have been wrong for 10,000 years, stand with me. For a moment there was only silence. Then ships began to move, not toward the human station, but between the human station and the attacking fleet. Not many at first, maybe 1/10 of the ships. But then more came. More ships broke from the attack formation. More commanders made the choice that Vex had made. More warriors decided that protecting young ones was more important than following orders. The High Council's response was immediate. The attacking fleet opened fire on Vex's ships. The battle began not with a warning, but with weapons released and shields activated. Ships exploded. Fire filled the space above station. The sounds of battle echoed through the command center. But the human colony had prepared. Lisa had made sure that the settlement was organized for protection. All non-military personnel had been moved to shelters deep underground. Medical stations had been set up to handle wounded from both species. The humans had also prepared something else. a defense system designed not to kill, but to disable and scatter. "Fire the pulse cannons," Lisa commanded. "Target their engines, not their weapons. Disable their ability to attack, but do not destroy their ships. We are trying to save lives, not take them." The human weapons fired, sending out waves of electromagnetic energy that shut down ship systems temporarily. It was not a killing blow. It was a warning. It gave the commanders on those ships time to disengage, time to choose a different path. Some ships fought back. Some commanders remained loyal to the Council. But many ships shut down their weapons. Many commanders realized that they were not fighting to protect their government. They were fighting because they had always fought, because it was what they knew, because it was easier to follow orders than to think. In the battle above the planet, something unprecedented happened. Soldiers started surrendering to human forces, not in surrender to defeat, but in surrender to understanding. They laid down weapons because they finally understood what they had been defending. They laid down weapons because they did not want to kill young ones anymore. Lisa made a decision that shocked her own commanders. She ordered that every surrendered soldier be treated as a guest, not a prisoner. She ordered that wounded enemies be brought to medical centers and treated just as carefully as wounded humans. She ordered that when battles ended, the survivors would be given food and shelter and respect. "Captain, this is against all military law," Frank Davis said to her privately. "We are being kind to our enemies while they are killing us." "We are being kind to them because they are making a choice," Lisa said. "Each one that chooses to stop fighting is a victory. Each one that we save is a future who will remember that humans were merciful. That matters more than any battle." The fighting lasted for 3 days. In those 3 days, something shifted in the hearts of thousands of soldiers. They watched humans refuse to use weapons of mass destruction. They watched humans tend to wounded enemies. They watched human soldiers die to protect civilians, both human and... They saw strength defined differently than they had ever seen before. Watched the battle from a protected shelter with the other young ones. But unlike the first time he had felt war, he was not alone and terrified. Lisa had left soldiers with them to explain what was happening. She had told them that they were not helpless children, but witnesses to something important. She had told them that their courage in surviving this far had already changed the galaxy. "Why do humans fight differently then?" one of the young ones asked the soldier guarding them. The soldier, a human named, thought about this carefully. "Because we learned long ago that the only way to win a real war is to win the hearts of your enemies. You can kill a soldier, but that makes more enemies. You can save a soldier, can show them mercy, and you make a friend. That is how humans think about power." On the 3rd day, the High Council's main ship was disabled. Not destroyed, but crippled. The Council members still inside had a choice: fight to the death or surrender. Many of them chose to fight, but the younger commanders, the ones who had seen what Vex and Lisa had shown them, decided differently. They arrested the High Council members. They disarmed the remaining weapons. They stopped the attack. Lisa Harper and High Commander Vex met in the same neutral space where they had first talked. But this time, Vex was not alone. He brought with him 10 commanders from the military, all of them wearing white bands on their uniforms to show that they had defected from the Council. "The war is over," Vex said. "The Council is captured. They will answer for their crimes. But more than that, my people have finally seen the truth. We have seen that humans do not fight for power. They fight to protect. That is why they are stronger than we are." Lisa's eyes were tired from 3 days without sleep, but she smiled. "The fighting is over, but the real work 6 months after the battle at Station, the peace talks were finally ready to begin. But these were not ordinary peace talks. For the first time in recorded history, 2 different alien species were meeting not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals trying to build something new together. The negotiations took place on a neutral station in deep space, far from any world that could be seen as belonging to one side or the other. Lisa Harper was there, no longer as a military captain, but as a representative of humanity. Vex was there as the temporary leader of the government, which was being reformed entirely. And the 5 young ones were there too, because their story had become the foundation for everything that was changing. The old High Council was on trial for crimes against their own people. The evidence was overwhelming. Thousands of young ones had been abandoned or killed under their rule. Entire populations had been eliminated for disagreeing with the Council's policies. The trial lasted weeks, but everyone knew how it would end. The Council members had committed crimes so terrible that no government could protect them. When the death sentences came, Lisa spoke before the court. "I believe these beings should live," she said. "Not because what they did was not wrong, but because death creates more death. These people can spend their remaining years understanding what they destroyed. They can spend their lives teaching the next generation never to repeat such horrors. That is a greater punishment than death." The judges were shocked. The victims were confused. How could this human who had suffered at the hands of these leaders ask for mercy? But gradually others began to understand. Lisa was showing the galaxy something that the old government never could have imagined: strength through forgiveness. The council members received life sentences, and several of them, over time, actually became teachers of a new kind of history. They taught young about the mistakes of power, about the dangers of bloodline law, about the beauty of compassion. The peace agreement that emerged from the talks was revolutionary. It stated that neither humans nor would have absolute power over any region of space. Instead, they would share the galaxy. The bloodline system would be dismantled entirely. All citizens, regardless of their family origins, would have equal rights under law. Young ones would be protected by law from military service or harm. Mercy would be honored alongside strength. Was chosen to carry the agreement signed by both species to every major planet and outpost in the galaxy. He was no longer marked for death because of his father's beliefs. Instead, he was celebrated as a symbol of a new era. The young who was abandoned but saved, who lived to see his father's dreams finally come true, became the face of hope for two species trying to learn how to live together. Lisa was offered many positions. She could have been a general, a governor, an ambassador. Instead, she chose something simpler and more difficult. She chose to build a school. On station, in the place where she had first found the wounded young ones, Lisa began construction of the first joint academy. Here, human children and young would study together. They would learn history together. They would learn that life was more valuable than weapons, that understanding was more powerful than force, that compassion was the greatest strength of all. High Commander Vex came to help with the school's opening ceremony. He stood in the Great Hall and looked at the children of two species sitting together at the same tables, learning from the same teachers, becoming friends who would never know a time when their species were enemies. "What you have begun here," Vex said to Lisa, "will reshape the entire galaxy. These young ones will grow up without hate. They will grow up knowing mercy. When they lead their governments, when they command their ships, they will remember this place. They will remember that a human captain saved young. They will remember that a commander chose compassion over his own government. That memory will protect the peace longer than any weapon ever could." Lisa smiled. Around them, children laughed and played in a language that was becoming common to both species. A human girl was teaching a young how to read. A child was showing a human boy how to climb using the way. They did not see each other as different. They saw each other as friends, as the future, as possibility. Years passed, the school grew larger. More children came to study. The joint colonies expanded. Trade agreements brought wealth to both species. But most importantly, the next generation grew up believing that peace was possible, that different species could work together, that mercy was strength. Now grown into a healthy and strong adult, became a teacher at the academy. He taught history, and in his classes, he told the story of the battlefield that fell silent. He told of the human captain who refused to abandon young ones. He told of the commander who finally questioned what he had always believed. He told of how two species learned to see each other not as enemies, but as beings worthy of respect and care. When students asked him why Lisa had taken such a risk, why she had sacrificed her military career to save strange alien children, would smile and say, "Because life is the only thing that truly matters. She understood that before her government did. She understood that before my government did. She understood it before I understood it. And that is why she is stronger than any commander, any leader, any warrior who ever lived." She proved that the greatest power is the power to save, not the power to destroy. Lisa Harper, now an old woman with gray in her hair, spent her final years working in the school's medical center. She healed the sick. She trained the next generation of healers. She was never a famous general or a legendary soldier, but she was remembered by billions of beings across the galaxy as the human who showed that compassion could change worlds. On her last day at the academy, before she retired completely, the entire school gathered to honor her. Humans and stood together, and they told her story. They told of how she stood against orders. They told of how she healed enemies. They told of how she built bridges between species that everyone said could never learn to live together. stood at her side, his arm around her shoulders, and he said to the gathered students, "This is Captain Lisa Harper. She came to our world as a soldier. She left as a healer. She found us broken and alone. She gave us future. This is what strength truly is. This is what we must all become." Above station, the stars shone like they had shone for billions of years. But the galaxy was different now. It was a place where two species had learned to live as one. It was a place where a young could become a teacher instead of a victim. It was a place where mercy had value, where compassion had power, where a simple human captain's choice to save a life had changed the course of history itself. The battlefield fell silent when a human tended the enemy's wounded young, and in that silence the future was born. A future where life itself was honored above all things. A future where strength meant protecting the weak instead of destroying them. A future where even the oldest enemies could become the greatest of friends. That was the legacy of Lisa Harper. That was the gift she gave to two entire species. And it would echo through the ages, reminding all beings in the galaxy that the greatest power is not the power to kill, but the power to save. Is just beginning. We have to rebuild. We have to create something new. We have to prove that humans can live together. Outside the station, the wounded were being treated. Soldiers who had surrendered were being cared for by human medics. Human soldiers who had been injured were being treated by healers. The battlefield had fallen silent, and in that silence something new was being born. In the medical center, stood for the first time on his fully healed arm. Lisa Harper stood beside him, and High Commander Vex stood on the other side. Three beings from different species, standing together, looking toward a future that would be different than anything any of them had known before. Lisa put her hand on Vex's shoulder. Outside, both human and ships prepared for war. But in the medical chamber, and the other young ones looked up at the stars and wondered if they would live to see a galaxy that was finally changing. Lisa looked at this powerful alien, this commander of ships and soldiers, and she saw something in him that surprised her. She saw loneliness. She saw someone who had followed orders all his life and never asked why. "In my world," Lisa said, "strength is not about power. Strength is about choosing what is right even when it is hard, especially when it is hard." Vex was quiet for a long time. Then he said words that no commander had said before. "I will help you protect those young ones. I will stand against my own government if that is what it takes. Your kind has shown me something my people forgot long ago." Outside, the two fleets faced each other in space. But in that small room, something was changing. Two species that had been enemies were beginning to understand each other. The young in station did not know yet, but their lives had just been saved again by someone who finally understood what Lisa Harper had known from the start, that saving a life was the strongest power in the universe. She knelt down beside them and began to work. She cleaned wounds. She bandaged broken bones. She gave water and what little food the squad carried. As she worked, something changed inside the ruins. The silence was no longer empty. It was full of purpose. It was full of human hands trying to save alien lives. None of the soldiers said anything, but Lisa could feel the weight of her choice. She knew what would come next. She knew that taking these young into her care would cost her everything. But as she looked at the small faces watching her with confused eyes, she knew she would not change her mind. The battlefield had changed. A human was tending the enemy's wounded young, and nothing would ever be the same again.